never thought a cup of coffee could strip away 65 years of dignity. But as the scalding liquid seeped through my blouse, blistering my skin, I realized it wasn't the coffee that burned. It was her words. Either give Travis what he needs or get out. We're not running a charity, Mom. Lisa's voice dripped with venom as cupboard doors slammed behind her. My daughter, standing in her pristine kitchen, glaring at me like I was a parasite. $10,000 for a gaming setup? I whispered, my voice trembling. Lisa, I've paid your utilities. I've bought the groceries. You owe us, she screamed, jabbing a shaking finger in my direction. We took you in after your surgery. We've been patient, but you just take and take. In the corner, my grandson Travis snickered behind his phone. Stingy and useless, he muttered without even looking up. The boy I once cradled in my arms now mocked me like I was nothing. The tears stung before the coffee did. I shook my head, just a small, broken shake. Lisa's face twisted into something unrecognizable. And then, with a flick of her wrist, the coffee mug arced through the air. The boiling liquid splashed across my forearm. I cried out, more in shock than pain. The ceramic shattered on the tile floor. Lisa didn't flinch. She didn't even look sorry. Don't bother coming back without your checkbook, she spat, and that's when I knew. I wasn't her mother anymore. I was her ATM, and when the cash flow stopped, so did her love. The burn on my arm pulsed like a warning bell as I packed my old, battered suitcase in silence. She's useless if she won't help us, Lisa's voice carried from the kitchen. Maybe it's time we get her declared incompetent, for her own safety. I froze mid-fold over my favorite blue cardigan. Declared incompetent. That wasn't just anger. That was premeditation. From the living room came Travis's voice, cocky and cruel. Grandma's such a stingy old hag, he laughed. She should just give us her card or rot in some nursing home? The sound hit harder than the mug she threw. Memories clashed in my mind, spooning cough syrup into Travis's tiny mouth at 3 a.m., buying him his first bike because Lisa and Paul couldn't afford Christmas. Now, at 17, he wanted me erased. I grabbed the small photo frame from my nightstand, Lisa's college graduation, her arms wrapped around me, tears streaking her face. You're the reason I made it through, Mom, she'd whispered back then. That girl was gone. As I zipped the suitcase, Lisa's voice pierced the air again. She's been sitting on money for years, Paul. Once she's gone, we can finally sell this place and start over. Sell this place? This wasn't their house. It was my house. The same house Cliff and I bought with 40 years of sweat and sacrifice. The garden still held his rose bushes. When Cliff died, the silence had been unbearable. So when Lisa suggested moving in to help me, I said yes. She sounded so sincere. Don't worry about anything, Mom. Let us handle it. You need to rest. But they weren't helping. They were managing me right out of my life. Just let her leave, Mom. Travis's voice drifted down the hall. She's no good to us if she won't pay. My heart cracked, but I didn't cry. Not this time. I pulled the door open quietly, the night air cool against my blistered skin. Go on, leave! Lisa screamed from the kitchen. See how far you get without us. The door clicked shut behind me. I walked down the front path slowly, my suitcase wheels rattling on the cracked pavement. The night air was sharp against my blistered skin. Halfway down the block, I glanced back at the house. My house. Its windows glowed warmly, but inside, there was no warmth left for me. I kept walking. By the time I reached the bus stop, my legs ached and my chest felt hollow. I didn't have a plan. Just one thought spinning over and over in my head. You will not get the best of me. Not this time. An hour later, I stood in a stale motel room, the air thick with bleach and despair. I sat on the edge of the bed, my suitcase still at my feet, my burned arm wrapped in a damp towel. My fingers hovered over the phone, trembling as they scrolled through my contacts. I stopped at her name, Evelyn Porter. 30 years ago, Evelyn was the fiercest attorney in the city, the woman who could make grown men in $2,000 suits sweat. She'd been my friend even longer than that. We used to laugh over coffee in my kitchen before Lisa banned her from visiting because you need peace, Mom, not old friends stirring things up. I should have called her months ago. I hit dial. The phone rang once, twice. Then, her voice. "Margaret?" she said, her tone sharp with worry. "What's wrong?" It took me a moment to speak. My throat felt tight. The words lodged like stones. I need your help." There was a pause on the other end. Not hesitation. Focus. "Where are you? Are you safe?" I swallowed the sob rising in my chest. "I left. Lisa. She threw coffee at me, Evelyn. She burned me because I wouldn't give her my credit card for Travis's gaming setup." Evelyn cursed under her breath. I could almost see her pacing her kitchen, barefoot, her hair still pinned up from the day. "That woman," she hissed. "I told you years ago she was circling like a vulture. She said I owed her for letting me stay. And I think she's planning to have me declared incompetent." My voice cracked. "Did I sign something, Evelyn?" "After my surgery, she kept bringing me papers to sign. Said it was easier if she handled my accounts." Silence. "Margaret, listen to me carefully," she said, her voice steady now, like she was back in the courtroom. "Did you ever give her power of attorney?" I don't know. I trusted her. She said it was temporary, to pay my bills while I recovered." "God damn it." A chair scraped in the background. Papers rustled. "Here's what we're going to do. First, you're going to send me every document you've signed since your surgery. I'll comb through it. Second, you're going to sit tight. Don't answer her calls. Don't reply to her texts. Do you understand?" "Yes." My voice was barely a whisper. "Good. Now listen. This isn't over. That house is still in your name, unless she pulled something truly underhanded. And if she did, I'll burn her for it." Her certainty was like oxygen. "She's squatting in your home, Margaret. Legally, she's got no claim unless you handed it over outright. We're going to revoke any powers of attorney and lock down your accounts. Do you have your bank information?" "Yes." I kept a notebook. "Smart girl," she said softly. "Smarter than they gave you credit for." I pressed the phone to my ear like it was a lifeline. "Evelyn, I thought she loved me. I thought..." "She loves your money, Margaret. That's not the same thing. Now it's time you loved yourself enough to take it back." For the first time in years, I felt a flicker of strength. Small, but real. "Okay," I said, my voice steadier now. "Where do we start?" "With me," she replied. "Tomorrow morning you're meeting me at my office. We're taking your life back." "And Margaret?" "Yes?" "Don't you dare cry another tear over that ungrateful woman. She's about to learn she picked the wrong mother to betray." As I hung up, I stared at the peeling wallpaper of the motel room. The pain in my arm was still there, but it didn't seem so sharp anymore. Because, for the first time in months, I wasn't alone. The same day, in Evelyn's office, the air felt heavier as we worked through the paperwork. "You're sure about this?" Evelyn asked, her eyes scanning me as though she were weighing my soul. "Once we start, there's no turning back. Lisa won't forgive this. She'll fight dirty." I nodded, though my hands trembled in my lap. She stopped being my daughter when she threw that coffee, and when she called me useless, and when she told me to get out. Evelyn leaned back in her chair, her fingers steepled. "The house is still in your name. I pulled the deed this morning. Margaret, you never signed it over. That's your first gift to yourself." The words felt like a breath I hadn't been able to take for years. "My house," I whispered. It sounded foreign, like a word I wasn't allowed to say. "Your house," Evelyn confirmed. "They've been squatting, Margaret, and they've been bleeding you dry. It ends now." A lump rose in my throat. I tried to swallow it down, but the memories came anyway, crashing over me like waves. I saw Cliff's hands, calloused and strong, as he painted the front porch railing white. "We'll grow old here, Maggie," he had said, smiling as sweat trickled down his temple. I saw the night we brought Lisa home from the hospital, tiny, pink, and screaming, and how I had stood in the nursery Cliff built with his own hands, rocking her under the soft glow of a mobile. That house was my life, my memories, and now my daughter had turned it into her castle, her lair, her playground for cruelty. They've dumped my jewelry in a box marked, "Sell for cash," I whispered, the words slipping out before I could stop them. "The pearl necklace Cliff gave me, it's sitting there like a piece of trash." Evelyn's jaw tightened. "They're already treating you like you're gone," she said. "But they forgot one thing. You're still here." I nodded slowly. "They'll scream," I murmured. "Lisa will twist it. She'll make herself the victim." "Let her," Evelyn said coldly. "You can't save a drowning woman who's been pulling you under for years." My eyes burned, but no tears came this time. I thought if I gave her enough, she'd love me again," I whispered. "I paid for Travis's camps, her car repairs, even that summer they stayed rent-free. But it was never enough. It's like every dollar I gave her scraped a little more of me away." Evelyn reached across the desk and covered my trembling hands with her steady ones. "It's time you stop giving and start taking back, Margaret. That house isn't just bricks and wood. It's you, your history, your sacrifice." She slid a stack of papers toward me. "This is the revocation of power of attorney. Sign it. Today you stop being their supply line. Today you start being their reckoning." I stared at the pen, my hand hovering. My chest ached, but not from fear. From the weight of every year I had spent bending over backward to be loved. I picked up the pen. And I signed. When it was done, Evelyn smiled. Not a soft smile, but the kind that showed teeth. "Next, we call the bank. We'll freeze every account, lock down every asset. She won't get another dime." As she spoke, I felt it. Something small but unmistakable stirring in my chest. It wasn't rage. It wasn't grief. It was power. The next morning at the bank, the air felt sterile and cold, the way hospitals do. I sat stiffly in the chair across from the banker, clutching my notebook with my trembling hands. "Mrs. Harper," the banker said gently, "you've requested to revoke all secondary account access and freeze any pending transfers?" "Yes." My voice was steady, but inside I felt like I was standing on a cliff edge. "And you understand this will prevent your daughter from accessing any funds?" "That's the point," I said, my tone sharper than I intended. The woman glanced at me over her glasses. Maybe she saw a frail, frightened old woman in a cardigan. But I didn't care. That version of me was gone. When the final papers were signed, she nodded. "It's done. All accounts are secure now. Only you have access." A strange wave rolled over me. Not relief, not yet, but something close. As I walked out into the crisp morning air, I pulled my phone from my purse. It had been buzzing nonstop since last night. 12 missed calls. 8 voicemails. Lisa must have discovered her golden spigot had run dry. I didn't listen to them, not yet, but I could imagine what they said. I shoved the phone back into my purse and walked faster. By late afternoon, I was back in Evelyn's office. "She'll come for me, won't she?" I asked, staring at the folder of documents Evelyn had assembled. Evelyn didn't sugarcoat it. "Oh, she'll come, first with tears, then with threats. It's how people like her operate. But she has no legal ground to stand on now." Almost on cue, my phone buzzed on the table. Lisa's name flashed across the screen. I didn't answer, but Evelyn plucked up the phone. "Let's listen," she said. "You need to hear it for yourself." The voicemail played, Lisa's voice tight and shrill. "Mother, what the hell is going on? I tried to use the account today and it was declined. Do you know how humiliating that was? I had to put groceries back in front of everyone like some pauper." A pause. Then her voice softened. Too sweet, too rehearsed. "Look, I know we've had our disagreements, but we're family. Travis needs new school clothes. Paul's car needs repairs. You can't just freeze us out like this. We've done so much for you, Mom. Don't you see? You owe us." I flinched. "She's good at this," Evelyn murmured. "But it won't work if you don't let it." Another voicemail rolled in before the last one ended. Lisa again, her voice breaking now. "Please, Mom, don't do this to us. I didn't mean what I said. You're all we have. If you don't unfreeze the accounts, we're ruined. You'll regret this. You need us more than we need you." That last sentence snapped something in me. I remembered Lisa standing over me yesterday, coffee dripping down my blouse, her eyes cold. "Don't bother coming back without your checkbook." And I knew Evelyn was right. "She's trying every angle," Evelyn said calmly. "Guilt, fear, threats. Don't fall for any of it." I stared down at my hands. They didn't look frail anymore. They looked steady, capable. "I won't," I said softly. "Not this time." As the sun dipped low outside Evelyn's window, I leaned back in my chair. "She'll hate me," I murmured. "She already does," Evelyn replied. "But you're finally starting to love yourself again." Later that same evening, I stood at the edge of the driveway, staring at the house. My house. The porch light flickered in the growing dusk, casting shadows over the peeling paint Cliff had once lovingly touched up every spring. This place should have felt like home. Instead, it felt like a crime scene. Evelyn sat in the car behind me, engine idling. "Are you sure you want to do this alone?" she asked. "Yes," I said, gripping the spare key in my pocket until it bit into my palm. "If I can't walk into my own house, then I've already lost." "They're still out of town, right?" "They went to Paul's sister's for the weekend. Lisa texted me yesterday. 'We're staying a few days, Mom. Don't burn the house down while we're gone,' I said bitterly. Evelyn's expression hardened, but she didn't argue. "I'll wait out here. Call if you need me." I nodded, my stomach in knots as I stepped onto the porch. Each creak of the wooden planks felt like a betrayal. Inside, the air was heavy with the faint smell of Travis's cologne and Lisa's expensive candles. My footsteps echoed in the quiet. This was my kitchen, but it didn't look like it anymore. The table was littered with shopping bags, designer labels, receipts showing numbers so large they made my head spin. I headed down the hallway toward my bedroom. The door was half open. My heart clenched as I stepped inside. The room had been stripped bare. My quilt, the one Cliff and I bought on our honeymoon, was gone. My jewelry box had been dumped into a cardboard box on the floor, scrawled with black marker, "Sell for cash." I knelt down, hands trembling as I sifted through the mess. My pearl necklace, Cliff's anniversary gift, was tangled in a cheap phone charger. "This is my life," I whispered, and they stuffed it into a box like trash. I sank back on my heels, the memories crashing over me. Lisa, age 8, running into this room crying because she'd had a nightmare. Me sitting on the bed, pulling her into my lap, whispering, "You're safe here, baby. Always safe with me." Lisa, 22, clutching her college acceptance letter, tears streaming down her face as she said, "I couldn't have done this without you, Mom." Where had that girl gone? I stood slowly, my jaw tightening. "They've erased me from my own home," I said aloud, the sound of my voice steadying me. But not for long. I spotted my old family photo albums stacked haphazardly on the floor near a trash bag. I grabbed them, clutching them to my chest like they were oxygen. As I carried them to the car, the anger in my chest hardened into resolve. This was my house, my memories, my life, and they would never take it from me again. The next morning, the house felt different. Not warmer, not safer, just still. I unlocked the door with Evelyn standing behind me, her arms folded tight over her chest. "They won't expect this," she murmured. "That's the point," I replied. We stepped inside, our footsteps muffled on the carpet. For a moment, I just stood there, breathing it all in. This house was full of ghosts. Cliff's laughter in the hallway. Lisa's little footsteps racing across the kitchen tiles. Even Travis's baby squeals, echoing faintly from the living room. But those ghosts had been smothered under greed and contempt. "This isn't home anymore," I whispered. "It's just a building. That's how you know it's time to let it go," Evelyn said firmly. The doorbell rang, sharp and deliberate. I jumped. Evelyn moved ahead and opened the door. A man in a sleek navy suit stood on the porch, clipboard in hand. His expression was calm, professional, the kind of calm that makes other people uneasy. "Mrs. Harper?" he asked, his voice smooth. I nodded. "Carla from Sterling Realty asked me to stop by. We're here to begin the evaluation and prepare the property for sale." Behind him, 2 uniformed security officers stood by a black SUV. One of them nodded to me, his posture straight, hands clasped behind his back. I swallowed hard. Evelyn placed a reassuring hand on my shoulder. "We're doing this by the book. The moment Lisa comes back and tries to make a scene, these gentlemen will handle it. You don't have to face her." I nodded, though my stomach knotted. "Show him around," Evelyn urged softly. As the man walked from room to room, jotting notes on his clipboard, I trailed behind him. "This was my husband's office," I said faintly as we entered the small back room. Lisa wanted to turn it into a home gym. She said Cliff's books smelled old and needed to go. "She won't have the chance now," he said simply, not looking up. In the hallway, I passed Travis's room. The door was ajar. His computer chair sat empty, the faint glow of his gaming setup reflecting off the walls. "They were planning to sell my furniture," I murmured. "I heard them talking about it on the phone." The man paused and looked at me, his gaze level. "Not anymore. Legally, they have no claim here." I swallowed the lump in my throat. By the time we returned to the kitchen, Evelyn was on the phone with the bank, her tone brisk and efficient. "Yes, freeze any new attempts to access her accounts. We've already revoked power of attorney." She caught my eye and nodded. "They're locked out for good." I exhaled slowly, my hands gripping the edge of the counter. "They'll come back," I said. "They'll scream. They'll threaten." "They can scream all they want," Evelyn replied coldly. "It won't change a thing." The man in the suit slipped a paper across the table. "Here's the timeline for the sale. We'll need your signature to authorize it, and the security team will remain on site until the property changes hands." I stared at the paper for a moment before picking up the pen. For years I had signed checks for Lisa, paid bills, handed over cards. This was the first time in decades I was signing something for me. When it was done, I set the pen down and straightened my back. "Let her come home," I said. My voice was calm, steady. "Let her see what happens when you push a mother too far." It happened later that evening. The sun had barely set when I heard the sound of tires screeching against the pavement outside the house. Headlights flashed across the living room curtains, sharp and angry. Evelyn glanced up from her phone. "She's here." Before I could respond, the front door shook with a heavy thud. "Open this door!" Lisa's voice screamed from the other side. "Mother, what the hell are you doing?" My chest tightened, but I stayed rooted in place. The security guard Evelyn hired stepped forward, his hand resting calmly on the doorknob. "Don't worry," he said to me quietly. "We've got this." "Mom!" "I swear to God, if you don't open this door right now, you'll regret it." Her voice cracked, not with grief, but rage. Evelyn moved to the door frame, her heels clicking sharply against the hardwood. When the guard opened the door just a crack, Lisa nearly fell through it. "Get out of my way!" she screamed, trying to push past him. The guard didn't move. "Ma'am, you are trespassing on private property. Step back." Lisa's eyes darted wildly before settling on me. "You froze the accounts?" she shrieked. "Do you have any idea what you've done? Travis needs new clothes. Paul's car broke down. We had bills to pay, Mother." "Bills?" "You mean my bills," I said quietly. Lisa's head snapped toward me. "You ungrateful old witch," she spat. "We took you in. We gave you a place to stay after Dad died. You mean after you convinced me I couldn't live alone?" I interrupted. My voice was low but steady. "You didn't take me in, Lisa, you took over." Her face twisted with rage. "You think you're the victim here? You've been sitting on money for years while we struggled. We sacrificed for you." Evelyn stepped forward, her voice cold and cutting. "Sacrificed? You mean siphoned her accounts dry, sold off her belongings, talked about having her declared incompetent so you could steal her home." Lisa froze, her mouth opening and closing like a fish gasping for air. "You can't prove that," she said finally, her voice shaking. Evelyn held up a manila folder. "We can. Every transaction, every document, every threat you've left on her voicemail. You've built our case for us." Lisa's face paled, but then her eyes hardened. You'll regret this, Mother. You're old. Alone. You think you can survive without us? I straightened my back, my blistered arms still aching but my resolve unshaken. I've been alone ever since you stopped seeing me as a mother and started seeing me as a wallet. Get out of here, Lisa, Evelyn said sharply, before we call the police. For a moment, I thought she might throw herself at me, the way she had thrown that coffee mug. But then her bravado cracked. You're nothing without us, she hissed, her voice breaking. No, I said quietly. I'm finally myself again. The guard closed the door gently but firmly, cutting off Lisa's last scream. The house fell silent. I sat down at the kitchen table, my hands resting flat on the wood. Evelyn placed her hand over mine. You did it, she said softly. You stood your ground. But inside, I knew it wasn't over. Not yet. Lisa wasn't the type to give up. The next morning, I sat in the motel room's dim light, staring at my phone. Evelyn had warned me not to look, but curiosity won. She'd sent me screenshots. Travis's face filled the screen, smirking, self-satisfied as he spoke into his phone camera. Can you believe my grandma? He said to thousands of followers. She's loaded, sitting on all this cash, and she can't even spare a few thousand for her own family. Selfish old hag. I froze. My finger hovered over the screen as his words cut deeper than the burn still blistering on my arm. She's just bitter because Mom asked her to help out, Travis continued. But hey, I guess she'd rather sit on her high horse and starve her own blood. What kind of grandmother does that? I could feel my heartbeat in my throat. The same boy I used to cradle in my arms. The same boy I sat up with all night when he had croup, whispering lullabies while Lisa and Paul fought in the next room. And now he called me a hag. I swiped to the next screenshot. Grandma's gone crazy, locked us out of her accounts, left the house. Maybe she belongs in a nursing home, not online banking. Man shrugging. The comments below twisted my stomach. Sounds like she's senile. Take her to court and get her declared incompetent. She should be grateful you even let her stay. Grateful. I dropped the phone on the bed, my hands trembling. Evelyn knocked softly on the doorframe. You shouldn't have looked, she said, her voice gentle but firm. I needed to know, I whispered. I needed to see how little I mean to them. You don't mean little, Evelyn said. You mean everything. That's why they're so angry. They've lost their golden goose. I stared down at my lap. He used to call me Nana, I murmured. He used to run to me when he was scared of the dark. That boy isn't the same anymore, Evelyn said flatly. Lisa has taught him to see you not as a person, but as a resource. You're the bank account to him now, Margaret. Nothing more. A cold ache spread through my chest. I thought I could fix it, I said. If I gave enough, loved enough, they'd see me again. But they don't see me at all. Evelyn knelt in front of me, gripping my hands tightly. They will, she said, but not in the way they want. They'll see you in court documents. They'll see you in bank statements they can't touch anymore. And they'll see you in the empty house they thought they owned when they come crawling back. I wiped at my eyes, surprised to find no tears there. Do you want to keep fighting? Evelyn asked quietly. I straightened my back, my voice steady. Yes, I said. I want everything back. The house, my accounts, my life. They don't get to take any more from me. Evelyn's lips curved into a sharp smile. Good, because we're about to remind them whose name is on the deed. And for the first time in weeks, I felt something like strength rising in my chest. It wasn't warm or gentle. It was cold, sharp, and unyielding. 2 days later, I sat across from Evelyn in a polished oak conference room that smelled faintly of ink and old leather. The stack of legal documents between us felt heavier than bricks. This is it, Evelyn said quietly. Once you sign these, you'll have full control again. No more power of attorney. No more Lisa. No more games. I ran my fingers over the papers, tracing my name typed neatly at the top. Margaret Harper. Are you sure she can't fight this? I asked, my voice low. Evelyn smirked. She can try, but the law is on your side. You never gave her ownership of the house. You never signed over your accounts. All she had was access, and you've revoked that. I took a deep breath and reached for the pen. This feels final, I whispered. It is, Evelyn said. Final for them. But for you? It's a beginning. The door swung open then, and a man in an ill-fitting suit stepped inside. His face was flushed, his tie loose like he'd rushed over. Lisa's lawyer. Mrs. Harper, he began, his tone falsely polite. I'm here on behalf of my client to request an immediate cessation of any legal actions involving the Harper residence. I didn't even look up. She has no claim, Evelyn said coldly. Your client was living in Mrs. Harper's property, using Mrs. Harper's funds, and attempting to isolate and financially exploit her. That's not true, the man stammered. My client has nothing, Evelyn cut in. No deed, no signed transfer, no legal authority anymore. I kept my eyes on the papers in front of me, my hand steady as I signed the first line. Mrs. Harper, the lawyer said, his voice rising, this decision will devastate your daughter's family. You don't want to be remembered as the woman who threw her own flesh and blood into the street, do you? I paused, the pen hovering midair. You mean the daughter who told me to leave my own house? I said softly. The lawyer faltered. She said, and I quote, don't bother coming back without your checkbook. The silence in the room was deafening. I signed the second line. Your grandson will suffer. He tried again, his voice growing desperate. He already made his feelings clear, I said, my voice like steel. The boy I once rocked to sleep called me a stingy old hag online. Evelyn folded her arms across her chest, her eyes glittering like a predator's. Your client's manipulation ends here. If you push this further, we'll file for elder financial abuse and seek damages. The man blanched. There's no need for threats. It's not a threat, Evelyn said coolly. It's a promise. I signed the last line and pushed the papers across the table. It's over, I said. The lawyer gathered his files and left in a huff. When the door clicked shut, I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. Evelyn smiled. You just took your life back, Margaret. How does it feel? I looked down at the pen in my hand. Strange, I admitted. But good. Really good. Outside the window, the sun broke through the clouds, casting warm light over the city streets. For the first time in years, I felt the weight on my shoulders lift, and I knew one thing for certain. Lisa was about to realize the game was no longer hers to play. The next morning, the papers were delivered. Lisa wasn't home when the process server arrived. The man, tall, silent, professional, slipped the envelope into her mailbox and taped another copy to the front door. Notice to vacate, 30 days. I watched from across the street, hidden in Evelyn's car, the engine idling low. My hands gripped the edge of my coat. You don't have to be here, Evelyn murmured. Yes, I do, I said quietly. I need to see it. I need to know it's real. The house looked almost peaceful in the pale morning light. For a moment, I let myself remember what it had been before. Before Lisa moved her family in, before Travis's voice became sharp with contempt, before I was told I was lucky to have a place under my own roof. This wasn't just a house. It was my last battlefield. Later that afternoon, the calls began. First, 1, then 5, then 12. By evening, my voicemail was full. On the 14th call, I answered. Mother, Lisa screamed before I could speak. What the hell is this? My hand tightened on the phone, but my voice came out calm. An eviction notice, I said. You can't do this to us. This is our home. No, I said evenly. It's mine. You're unbelievable, she shrieked. After everything we've done for you, after all the sacrifices. You mean the sacrifices I made? I interrupted, my voice steady. The groceries I paid for, the bills I covered, the house I let you live in rent-free while you called me useless behind my back. That's not true. You're twisting this. I'm taking back what's mine, Lisa. I'm done. The line went silent for a heartbeat. Then her voice dropped low, venomous. You'll regret this. You're old, alone. You think you can handle life without us? Who's going to take care of you when you're rotting in some nursing home? I didn't flinch. You'll have to find someone else to bankroll your lifestyle, I said coldly. This ends here. You're heartless, she spat. No, I said, my voice steady as stone. For the first time in my life, I'm protecting my own heart. I hung up before she could respond. Evelyn, sitting beside me, raised an eyebrow. That was impressive, she said. You didn't let her get a single hook into you. I've spent my whole life letting her twist me in knots, I murmured. No more. I looked out the window at the house. The eviction notice fluttered faintly in the breeze. They'll come back tonight? I said quietly. Let them, Evelyn replied. The security team knows what to do. And for the first time, I believed her. I wasn't afraid anymore. 2 days later, I stood in the doorway of what used to be my home. The movers worked silently around me, their boots thudding softly on the hardwood floors. Cardboard boxes lined the walls, each labeled in thick black marker. Dishes, linens, Margaret's room. This is everything? I asked Evelyn, my voice quiet. She nodded. Every single item you wanted. Nothing more, nothing less. Lisa won't have a reason to claim anything of yours. I nodded, my eyes sweeping the living room. The house looked strange now, hollow and cold. The walls were bare, where Cliff's photos used to hang. The little ceramic birds I collected were packed away, leaving behind faint outlines in the dust. I walked slowly to the fireplace and ran my fingers along the mantel. This was where Lisa placed her family Christmas photos each year, smiling like she'd built this home with her own hands. Now the mantel was empty. A lump rose in my throat, but I swallowed it down. I remember laying these floors with Cliff, I said softly. We stayed up half the night because we didn't want to stop once we started. Evelyn stayed silent, letting me have the memory. The sound of tape tearing broke the quiet as one of the movers sealed the last box. Ready for the truck, ma'am? He asked. I nodded, my voice catching slightly. Yes, thank you. As they carried the boxes out one by one, I trailed behind them. In the hallway, I paused at Travis's door. It was ajar. His gaming posters still hung on the walls, mocking me with their bold colors. On the dresser sat the wallet I'd bought him for his 16th birthday, a tiny thank you for all the times I'd slipped him cash without Lisa knowing. He used to hug me tight and say, "You're the best, Nana." Now he called me a stingy old hag. My hand hovered on the doorknob, but I didn't push it open. I'm not leaving a single piece of myself behind, I whispered. The movers loaded the last box into the truck and shut the doors with a dull thud. I stepped back into the house one final time. The rooms echoed now, stripped bare of life. This house isn't mine anymore, I murmured. Not really. It's not theirs either, Evelyn said softly. Not for much longer. As I walked out the front door, I didn't look back. Not at the kitchen where I baked birthday cakes for Lisa. Not at the garden where Cliff planted roses every spring. Not at the empty living room where I once cradled a baby Travis, whispering promises I thought I could keep. I climbed into Evelyn's car and shut the door. Where to now? She asked gently. I pulled the new apartment keys from my coat pocket, their metallic weight solid and reassuring. Home, I said. My home this time. As we drove away, I didn't cry, not because it didn't hurt, but because I'd already mourned this place. Now I was done mourning. The next morning, I sat in my new apartment, a small 2-bedroom with plain white walls and creaky floors. It wasn't much, but it was mine. The keys rested in my palm, cool and solid. I traced the ridges with my thumb, breathing in the quiet around me. No slamming doors, no shouting voices. No Travis mocking me from behind a glowing screen. Just silence. Evelyn had stopped by earlier with fresh flowers. You did it, she said simply, setting the vase on the kitchen counter. They're probably on their way back from their trip by now. I nodded, gripping the keys tighter. I wonder what they'll say when they see the house. They'll say plenty, Evelyn replied, but none of it will matter. Now, sitting alone in the fading afternoon light, I imagined it. The moment Lisa would pull into the driveway, her SUV packed with shopping bags, and Travis glued to his phone in the back seat. She'd unlock the front door expecting the scent of her expensive candles, the hum of her refrigerator full of groceries I bought, the warmth of the home she thought was hers. Instead, she'd find a stranger in a suit waiting for her, and nothing else. No family photos, no furniture, no me. The thought sent a strange chill through me. Not fear, not even anger. Just stillness. For so long, I had been the quiet one, the peacemaker. I swallowed my pride, bit my tongue, and told myself I had to keep the family together. But silence isn't always peace. Sometimes it's a slow death. Now, I was quiet for a different reason. I wasn't waiting for Lisa to call. I wasn't waiting for Travis to apologize. I wasn't waiting for them to love me again. I was waiting for them to realize they'd lost. Across town, the house was no longer mine. The security team Evelyn hired would be there, standing at attention. The realtor, too, in his crisp suit with his clipboard, ready to answer questions Lisa wouldn't like the answers to. I pictured her face when she'd realized the accounts were frozen, the furniture gone, and the locks changed. She'll come home expecting me to cower, I whispered to the empty apartment. Instead, she'd meet a stranger in a suit. I let out a long, slow breath. For the first time in decades, I wasn't scared of her, and I wasn't scared of what came next. The tires screeched into the driveway. Lisa threw the car into park so hard, Travis jolted in the back seat, his headphones tumbling off. "Why are all the lights off?" he muttered, peering up from his phone. Lisa didn't answer. Her jaw was tight, her hands white-knuckling the steering wheel. "Stay in the car!" she snapped, flinging open her door. She stomped up the front steps, shopping bags swinging wildly from her arms. But when her key jammed in the lock, her stomach twisted. "What the hell?" she muttered, rattling the door harder. Finally, the door creaked open, not because of her, but because someone else turned the knob from the inside. A man in a crisp navy suit stood in the hallway, a clipboard tucked neatly under his arm. "Mrs. Harper?" he asked calmly. Lisa froze. "Who the hell are you?" she demanded. "I'm Daniel Clark, representing Sterling Realty," he said evenly. "This property is being prepared for sale." Lisa blinked. "What?" No, this is my house." "You can't sell my house." Daniel adjusted his tie, unruffled. "The house is not in your name, Mrs. Harper. It remains the legal property of Margaret Harper." Lisa's face twisted. "Where is she?" she screamed, shoving past him into the empty living room. The echo of her own voice was deafening. Gone was the plush sofa she'd claimed as hers. Gone were the velvet curtains she'd bragged about to her friends. Gone were the family photos she'd plastered over the mantel like trophies. The house was hollow, cold. "What the hell is this?" she shrieked. Daniel followed her with measured steps. "Your mother instructed us to clear all her personal property and secure the home for resale. She also left this for you." He handed her a plain white envelope. Lisa snatched it and tore it open, her eyes scanning the words. "Lisa, this was never your house, never your money, never your life to control. It's over. I'm done." Mom Lisa's hand shook. The letter fluttered to the floor. No, she can't do this to me," she screamed. Her voice cracked, wild and feral. "She already did," Daniel said simply. Lisa's head whipped toward him. "You listen to me. You tell her I'm coming for her. She won't get away with this. She's nothing without me. Nothing." But her words bounced off the empty walls, absorbed into the silence she could no longer fill. Daniel straightened his clipboard and adjusted his glasses. "I'll let Mrs. Harper know you stopped by." And with that, he stepped past her and out the door. Lisa sank to her knees in the bare living room, clutching the letter in her fist, her shopping bags strewn across the floor. Her scream ripped through the house. "You can't do this to me!" But I already had. Across town, I sat in my new apartment, a warm cup of tea in my hands. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel like someone's mother, someone's grandmother, someone's caretaker. I felt like myself. And it felt good.